On September 11, activities were held in Santiago, the capital of Chile, and other cities to commemorate 9/11. From day to night, from squares to cemeteries, we mourn President Allende, who was killed 50 years ago, as well as the more than 30,000 victims. But many Chilean people shouted slogans to defeat the United States, and they have not forgotten this day. On September 11, 1973, instigated by the CIA, Chilean rebels launched a military coup. That day, they surrounded the Moneda Palace, presidential palace. The goal of the United States is not only to kill President Allende, but also to completely overthrow the Chilean regime, change Chile's development path, and make it a country controlled by the United States. The United States killed democracy in Chile while claiming to be the defender of democracy around the world. The rebels gave President Allende a chance and allowed him to go into exile. Allende saw through the other party's conspiracy, which was to ask him to legally transfer power to the rebels. He refused to escape or surrender. With the huge disparity in strength and weapons between the two sides, knowing that he was bound to die, he picked up a submachine gun and commanded the Presidential Guard to engage in a firefight with the rebels. Allende eventually died for his country. The United States always commemorates 9/11, but it never commemorates 9/11 in Chile, which it single-handedly planned. But the people of Chile will remember this bloody history, and so will the people of Latin America. Former Ecuadorian President Correa launched a program Dialogue with Correa on the Spanish language channel, which devoted the past 2 days to talking about 9/11 in Chile. He has successively invited Venezuelan President Maduro, former Argentine President Cristina, former Bolivia President Morales, and former Honduras President Zelaya. He also plans to invite Brazilian President Lula and Mexican President Lopez. There was also a special guest, Allende's grandson Pablo Allende. Allende's 3 daughters all restored the surname Allende, and their descendants also had the surname Allende. Why is his grandson called Pablo Allende? There is a story here. Because Chile's greatest thinker, poet, and writer is called Pablo Neruda. Neruda also died at St. Mary's Hospital in Santiago on September 23, 12 days after Allende's death. Neruda also died at the hands of the American CIA. On October 20, 2017, the Chilean government announced that an international group of 16 medical scientists had concluded that Neruda did not die from prostate cancer. On February 15 this year, the British Guardian and many other European media reported that forensic experts confirmed that Pablo Neruda, a former Nobel Prize winner in literature and a famous Chilean poet and writer, was found in the body. Powerful toxin, he was injected with poison and died. In other words, the United States not only killed Chile's best politicians, but also assassinated Chile's greatest writers. How poisonous is it? Why don't even writers let go? Because Neruda planned to leave the hospital and travel to Mexico. Given his reputation in Latin America, once he makes remarks exposing the US conspiracy, the impact will be very serious. Neruda also served as the Chilean ambassador to France, and at that time he returned to the country to recuperate. Therefore, the CIA must get rid of Neruda. Neruda and Allende were political allies. In 1969, Neruda was originally the presidential candidate recommended by the Communist Party of Chile. However, in order to avoid splitting votes, Neruda chose to withdraw to ensure that Allende represented the Union of Popular Unity can defeat right-wing parties. In 1970, Allende won and appointed Neruda as ambassador to France. Allende was elected president, and the United States was horrified. At that time, left-wing political forces in Latin America had only 2 ways to govern: armed revolution and parliamentary struggle. But in the face of the powerful military power and propaganda power of the United States, it is impossible to succeed. Cuba is an exception. Allende made the impossible possible. He came to power through elections, and the process was completely in line with the democracy promoted by the United States. The new Chilean government fulfilled its promise to carry out socialist reforms, a total of 40 plans, including the nationalization of copper mines, and decided to establish diplomatic relations with China. The United States must not allow this regime to survive, otherwise, the whole of Latin America may change. The overthrow of the Chilean democratic regime is a national action of the United States. Under the leadership of the White House, the U.S. State Department, Treasury, Pentagon, and CIA conducted joint operations. The White House has prepared 2 hands, soft and hard. Soft. The sale of U.S. strategic copper reserves pushed down international copper prices, while cutting off the Chilean government's borrowing channels, causing the Allende government's economic plan to fail and forcing him to resign. However, in the Chilean congressional elections held in March 1973, the Union of Popular Unity won a higher support rate than in the presidential election. This means that the soft hand of the United States has failed. Then, the United States became tough on Chile and put its military coup plan into effect. The CIA has been wooing Chilean generals for 2 years. The ranking of Chilean generals is Army Commander-in-Chief Schneider, Chief of General Staff Plaster, and Santiago Garrison Commander Pinochet. Schneider's claim, the Chilean military does not interfere in any political issues and must obey the president elected by the Constitution. On October 22, 1970, the Chilean Congress approved the presidential appointment of Allende, waiting to be sworn in. On October 24, Army Commander-in-Chief Schneider was assassinated. The United States removed a major obstacle in the Chilean military. During the investigation of the assassination, General Plaster took over as Army Commander-in-Chief and Pinochet became Chief of General Staff. But the United States discovered that General Plaster, like Schneider, was also a defender of the Constitution. He was also appointed by Allende as Minister of Defense. In June 1973, the CIA ordered a mole to assassinate Plaster, but failed. They staged another small-scale armored rebellion, which was defeated by Plaster. In August, some senior military officers' wives held a bowl-banging demonstration in front of Pratt's home and cursed. The right-wing media cooperated and insulted Pratt in public opinion. Unable to bear the humiliation, Plates resigned as Commander-in-Chief. Pinochet successfully became Army Commander-in-Chief, and 3 weeks later, the coup was successful. Allende actually believed that Pinochet would also be loyal to the Constitution and the president. Originally, he had the right to veto the hidden rules of succession in the military. Pinochet was grateful to the United States. 1 week before the coup, the CIA gave him a list that divided Chilean military officers into 3 types. 1. Those who support the coup will be given bounties, appointed officials, and made wishes. 2. They do not want to participate in the coup, but they do not stop the coup d'état and all remain in the military camp. 3. Anyone who is loyal to the Constitution and the president will be shot. Pinochet complied with everything, and the United States invested more than $40 million in the rebels. CIA officials Slaughterman, Asak, Tipton and Wheelock entered Chile as experts, with the real purpose of directing a coup on the spot. On September 11, the only armed force that could rescue the presidential palace were students from the National Police Academy in the capital, but these students were all shot dead on campus. After soldiers from the San Bernardo Infantry School in the Santiago region learned of the coup, they prepared to go to the capital to maintain order. They fought fiercely with the rebels on the road, and the battle lasted for 15 hours. More than 2,000 patriotic officers, soldiers, and military police died. After the coup, CIA experts directed the rebels to set up special military courts and execute many officers and soldiers. CIA experts also taught them to build concentration camps and imprison the backbones of the People's Solidarity Alliance, the Communist Party, and the Socialist Party. Later, they even sent the Catholic Democratic Party politicians who supported the coup to the concentration camps because they wanted to replace the military government. Chile is a Catholic country. When the White Terror began, the priests asked to go to Santiago to see the actual situation. Under pressure from Latin American Catholic forces, Pinochet sent armed helicopters to pick up priests from major dioceses in Chile to the capital. When various priests arrived over Santiago, the rebels announced that the capital had arrived. Then he prepared to throw the priest down, which frightened the priest. Therefore, the priests told the media that they had been to Santiago and did not see the massacre. On September 24, when news of Neruda's death came out, Chile's famous intellectuals also ran away. This month is called Black September. By 1974, Chile, with a population of only 15 million, had more than 200,000 people imprisoned in prisons and concentration camps. In order to encourage Pinochet, the United States continued to send him dollars, weapons, and interrogation tools. The CIA taught the Chilean special police step-by-step interrogation techniques, including advanced methods of handling corpses. On July 14, 1974, the military government issued Order No. 52L, establishing the National Intelligence Center with the power of life and death, also known as the infamous DINA. DINA is not under the leadership of the Chilean military government, it is an agency affiliated with the CIA. Its leader, Contreras, is supported by the CIA, and he is also in charge of the Overseas Special Operations Team. The mission of the Overseas Special Operations Force is to hunt down Chilean patriots across borders. General Plaster fled to Argentina with his wife Sofia on the fourth day of the coup. But the former Army Chief and Defense Secretary knew too much. Prast was interviewed by a Dutch female reporter at the end of September. He said that he had a lot of evidence that the United States was directly involved in the military coup, but the content of the interview could not be published until he was safe. However, a Dutch female journalist leaked some important information. The CIA was afraid that he would disclose the information, so it asked Pinochet to negotiate with the old boss through an intermediary in Buenos Aires, and Plaster agreed not to disclose it for the time being. Because his parents, his 3 daughters and 6 grandchildren were all in Chile, he knew the methods of the CIA and Pinochet. But this agreement only lasted for half a year, and a saying began to spread among the Chilean army: General Plaster was right. Pinochet, who came to power through a coup, was most afraid of a coup in the military. He decided to tear up the agreement and support the CIA in killing Plaster. In March 1974, Plates wrote to Allende's widow Busy, who was living in Mexico, saying that he was in a very dangerous situation and that she should be careful. The Praters lived at No. 335 El Moravia Street at the time. This was a wealthy area, close to the port and adjacent to a working-class area with a large number of Chilean expatriates. On Sunday, September 29, 1974, the general and his wife Sofia drove a Fiat car, number 1600, to a gathering at the home club of Chilean expatriates. Argentinian intelligence officers knew his movements. Chile could not direct them. Only the CIA could do that. The CIA assigned the task to the DINA Overseas Operations Team. That night, the killer sucked the magnetic time bomb under the driver's seat of the Fiat car. At 10:45 p.m., Plates drove home quickly. He got out of the car and went to the garage. When he took less than 10 steps, the bomb exploded. Sofia was killed on the spot in the car. Plates was carried to the car by the neighbors who arrived, but he struggled for a while and died. The next day, Pinochet said he was very sorry. He allowed the 3 daughters of Plates to go abroad, brought the bodies of the Plates couple back to Chile, and pretended that he was very sad. The American media immediately spread the rumor that Prats was killed by a bomb by left-wing radicals in Latin America. But they couldn't convince everyone, so they spread rumors that it was an Argentine far-right organization. The CIA's pursuit of overseas Chilean patriots continued until 1980, including the former Vice President of Chile Leighton and his wife, who were shot in the face in Rome, Italy on the afternoon of October 6, 1975. These overseas assassinations are simply not something that Chilean agents can accomplish. The CIA has always done good deeds without leaving their name behind. Allende was an idealist who believed in democracy, parliamentary struggle, and the ability to take back the sovereignty of Chilean copper mines from the United States without bloodshed, accounting for 87% of the country's foreign exchange earnings. But he died at the hands of the lighthouse of democracy. In June 1971, Premier Joe expressed his views on the Chilean election in an interview with the famous Mexican journalist Julio. Premier Joe pointed out, President Allende's regime is a democratic regime, but it is impossible for a democratic regime to consolidate without the support of armed forces. I have to remind you of another thing that I think is very important: if a small group of soldiers accept the influence of foreign aggressive forces, if special attention is not paid to this issue, there may be trouble, which is a military coup. On September 5, 1971, Mexico's La Supremo published the full text of Premier Joe's speech. On September 7, the Chilean newspaper Courier reprinted the full text, but Latin American countries still refused to listen. 9/11 in Chile proved that a president who can only command more than 50 guardsmen, how can he protect democracy? Latin American people will never forget 9/11. Politicians, soldiers, writers, everyone must be exterminated. The crimes committed by the lighthouse of democracy in Latin America are truly too numerous to describe. Injustice doomed to destruction.